Hi there, and thanks for tuning into this market wrap on BloombergQuint. A day full of um, news, if you will, plus the expiry day as well, the weekly options expiry, RBI policy day. It's a day ahead of is the market performance ahead of the non-farm payroll data in the US. So lots that happened today, and a fair degree of choppy volatility. Even though, if you look at the headline numbers, they ended in the green. You would have to say that at a point of time, led by the banks, they were substantially higher, and then kind of cooled off in the session today. So let's bring up the Nifty performance and show you what moved and what not. So you will see the headline number about 0.6 odd percent or 0.89% higher, excuse me, for the Nifty 50. This is the post close and led in part by IT. We've been talking about it for the last 2 days that IT will make a comeback. It's finally done. And Infos is up about 3%, HCL Tech about a couple of percentage points. A bit of that move really that came in for the indices. Tata Steel, of course, leading the pack. And I think we've spoken about this a number of times now, how global brokerages, one after the other, are turning bullish on the steel space. So I think those stocks seem to be doing okay. Some of the banks and NBFCs took a bit of a leg up after the policy announcement and a status quo of sorts. So the likes of Bajaj Finance and ICICI Bank doing reasonably okay for themselves. What didn't do well, and yesterday's top gainers, the auto pack came off today, but marginally at that. Bharti Airtel ended marginally in the red, but that's about it. I mean, not too much really. The interesting thing is what happened at the broader end of the spectrum, because there's a lot of volatility between a number of stocks. And I'm sure Nickey will point out some of those. But the gold loan companies, some of the result boys, some of the metal names, all of them had some really strong moves. But the chart that we'll get on the screen for you will show you whether the market breadth stayed positive yet again or no. For 3 days on a trot, we've had positive market breadth, and today on the NSE 500 is no different. 300 advances, 189 declines. Birla Soft, robust 14% up move. Astral Poly, 1081 now after the numbers. Jamnar Auto, slightly better than estimated numbers, maybe up to about 10%. So really strong show there. Sequence Scientific up about 9.5%. Prestige Estates, and I'm sure Nicky's going to speak about that. But Tata Consumer took my breath away, really. I was talking about this stock yesterday as the stock of the day. It's come back today and come back with a bang. So really strong show. Aegis Logistics another 6.5% at 213. This was Nomura's call yesterday, remember. What's not done well? Some difference for Gulf Oil Lubricants, some weakness in Bata in the session. So those two or three names are kind of choppy. But Nickey, good afternoon, and a lot of stocks and important ones at that, which showed some reactions today. What did you make of the mood in the market?
Sure, clearly an eventful day for the markets. It was interesting to see how Bank Nifty index moved overall, a sharp downtick that we saw in a knee-jerk reaction to the RBI monetary policy, but it just went up after the announcement of restructuring, one-time restructuring that came around. So clearly an interesting day. But then the four stocks that I've picked up today, I'm going to be starting off with Prestige Estates, which has actually rallied more than 8%. And it's in fact for the eighth consecutive session that the stock has rallied, and it has the longest streak that we've seen in a span of nearly 8.5 years. HSBC has upgraded the counter and said that it's going to be a buy rating as compared to a neutral rating. In the recent past, we also saw JP Morgan coming up with a note and say that the large developers are now at a better point of time. I mean, they're expected to earn returns on new development, which are expected to be above the cost of capital given the low cost of land. So clearly, you could see some amount of outperformance coming in from the real estate names. Also, Birla Soft, as you just mentioned, which rallied around 14% intraday. There's a strong operational performance which came around for Birla Soft. There was an order book performance was strong, coupled with there was a strong cash generation, the client addition, you name it, and we have it. Be it in terms of results, be it in terms of cash flows, be it in terms of order book, client addition, all of them, all the counters were taken over for Birla Soft. So clearly, 14% uptick that we saw in trade today. Astral Polytechnic, that again was a good set of numbers. I mean, it's for the second consecutive session post earning that the stock has been doing well, because the EBITDA was down by 40%. Remember, year on year basis, it came to a number of around 54 odd crore, but then the street was working, or the consensus was working with a number of around 40 to 45 odd crore. And the interesting one that I have in my list is Muthoot Finance. In fact, all the gold lenders in the initial, when the announcement came in, where the loan to value for the loan sanctioned by bank against the pledge of gold for non-agri, that was expected to be increased to, has been increased to 90% from 75% earlier. In knee-jerk reaction, you saw all the gold lenders actually surging, but then back again, they slipped off and ended the day lower in the cuts of around 3.5% 4% in trade, because this particular announcement pertains just to bank and not these gold lenders. So a little downtick there on account of this little move that came in from RBI policy.
Yeah, it was interesting because I think people thought that maybe the gold loan NBFCs too would benefit. Sorry, Nickey, you were saying something.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask you how, what do you make out of RBI monetary policy? Anything that stood out for you?
I mean, the restructuring announcements are interesting, and I would urge all our readers to actually log onto our website and try and read more about these things as well. There are 3 or 4 pieces that we put out which explain all that the RBI seems to have done. On the rate front, I don't think there's any surprise there, but just that the markets were probably pricing in, and what if there is a move, and the status quo kind of helped the markets because I think, Nicky, what was interesting was the RBI's comment on inflation expectations, right? And if you look at the 1 year out expectations on inflation, they are lower than the 3 month out expectations. So RBI seems to be benign on inflation, and maybe that might give the markets a feeling that the rate cuts, if not now, will come in during the course of the year. For the debt funds as well, I think it's a good thing because now banks have to set aside the equal amount of capital. This is our website, and you will see a bunch of those stories, right? Let me just kind of tell you that the one-time restructuring of loans that the RBI has permitted, or the norms easing, at the key decisions, that's the tab that you could look at as well. So I think there are a number of decisions that have been taken, all of which will be beneficial for you to read. So do go out and try and read. But just that I was finishing my point on the debt funds as well. Now that the banks have to set aside equal capital for either direct purchases of bonds or through mutual funds, I think the debt funds which have these government securities, Bharat Bond ETF, for example, all of these might be beneficiaries. So that was interesting bit. But we're looking forward to tomorrow. Some global events will happen today, which we should watch out for. Nickey, what about India? What should one watch out for?
Sure. In terms of Nifty earnings, we have Cipla and M&M, which will be coming out with numbers tomorrow. In other earnings, we have something in the likes of Alembic, we have Amber Enterprises, Bata, Soba, Ramco Cement, and Siemens. These are some of the names that we have on our list for tomorrow.
Okay. Well, tomorrow we'll ask Nickey about what's happening with the metal space, right? She tracks it very well, and those stocks are really going berserk. So maybe a conversation around that tomorrow at the end of the week. But for now, we wish all of you a safe evening ahead. In Mumbai, it's pouring, so stay safe if you're venturing out. But otherwise, from Nickey, myself, and the team that has put this piece together, thank you so much for tuning in.